All right, Senate will come back to order. We're going to do a couple of special orders. Recognize the senator from the 18th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 232.
The senators move. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 232 by Senators Kennedy of the 18th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 15 of the OCGA relating to courts so as to provide for probate court fees, to provide for funding of the State Children's Trust Fund, to revise provisions regarding additional fees, to amend Code Section 25-10-4 of the OCGA relating to requirement of permit for conduct of fireworks display and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 232, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 15 of the OCGA relating to courts so as to provide for probate court fees, to provide for definitions, to provide for funding of the State Children's Trust Fund, to revise provisions regarding additional fees, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, Mr. President. Y'all may remember we passed a bill this year that set the fees that the probate courts charge for filing documents and for all the things when you interact with the probate court. They charge lawyer fees. They charge lawyers fees for certain things. They charge the public for filing documents. The only change that the House made was the effective date of the bill. Other than that, this is exactly what we passed out a few weeks ago. Happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Senator from 33rd, for what purpose do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 44th for business inside the Capitol.
Without objection, Senator from 44th is excused. Senator, any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Hearing none. The motion is on the House substitute to Senate Bill 232. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the motion to agree, the yeas are 44, the nays are 0, and this motion has prevailed. Recognize the senator from the 32nd.
To the House substitute on Senate Bill 398.
Senator has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute on Senate Bill 398. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 398 by Senators Kirkpatrick of the 32nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 4 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to Georgia Joint Defense Commission so as to revise the Commission's operations, to expand the Commission's membership, to revise the term lengths of Commission members, to revise definitions, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 398, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 4 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to the Georgia Joint Defense Commission so as to revise the Commission's operations, to expand the Commission's membership, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator, would you like to speak to the measure?
Thank you, Mr. President. This has to do with the Georgia Joint Defense Commission, and if you recall, we moved it from the technical college system to the Department of Economic Development to better match with the bigger mission of that commission. The only change that was made in the House is that one additional appointment was added to be made by the Speaker in order to make the numbers even. That's it. Be happy to answer any questions.
All right, no questions, Senator.
Thank you. Yield the well.
Is there any objection to the senator's motion? Objection. All those in favor of the Senate agreeing to House substitute on SB 398 will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 43, the nays are 2, and this motion has prevailed. Recognize Senator from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 440.
Senator has moved that the Senate agree to House substitute 440, Senate Bill 440. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 440 by Senators Brass of the 28th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to the Quality Basic Education Act so as to provide for the Accelerated Career Diploma Program, to provide for a short title, to establish and provide for the ACE Grants Pilot Program, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 440, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to the Quality Basic Education Act so as to provide for the Accelerated Career Diploma Program, to provide a short title, to establish and provide for the ACE Grants Program, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senator from the 28th, you can speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick refresher course on SB 440. This comes out of the study committee we did this summer on dual enrollment, and we set up the ACE grant program, and everybody had full support on this one. The only change the House made was on line 62, simply adding language on program licensure to align the diploma program to changes that the feds are requiring for Pell Grant changes. That's it. I'll yield the well.
Does any other member like to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. All those in favor of the Senator from the 28th motion to agree on House substitute on Senate Bill 440 will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary unlock the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 47, the nays are 1, and this motion prevails. All right, starting back on the rules calendar. House Bill 1203. Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 1203 by Representatives Kelly of the 16th and others, a bill to be entitled An Act to Amend Article 3 of Chapter 7 of Title 44 of the OCGA relating to dispossessory proceedings so as to authorize landlords to use certain off-duty sheriffs, constables, or marshals to execute writs of possession and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland of the 17th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Judiciary offers the following substitute to House Bill 1203, a bill to be entitled An Act to Amend Article 3 of Chapter 7 of Title 44 of the OCGA relating to dispossessory proceedings so as to authorize landlords to use certain off-duty sheriffs, sheriff deputies, constables, marshals, or other individuals certified by the Georgia Peace Officer Standards and Training Council and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the Senator from the 50th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to bring you HB 1203. What this does is it allows landlords who are unable to have a sheriff's office serve basically an eviction within 14 days to utilize the services of an off-duty Georgia post-certified police officer that has authority in that jurisdiction. It's a simple bill, and I ask for your favorable consideration. If there are no questions, I'll yield the will. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill having received the requisite constitutional majority, therefore passed by substitute. Secretary read House Bill 1223.
House Bill 1223 by Representatives Leverett of the 123rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 12 of Title II of the OCGA relating to the Georgia Soil Amendment Act of 1976 so as to provide for a new prohibited act and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Goodman of the 8th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs offers the following substitute to House Bill 1223, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 12 of Title II of the OCGA relating to the Georgia Soil Amendment Act of 1976 so as to provide for a new prohibited act and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 24th. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. I bring you House Bill 1223. It's a soil amendment bill that passed out of the Ag Committee by 100%. Also, it's a bill that our commissioner has asked for, that he can put, as he said in his words, it's another tool he can put in his toolbox. This is all this bill is about, is that if you have a bad actor, that the EPD and the Ag Commissioner has more power to shut them down until they get it corrected. We need this bill in my district and in Senator from the 23rd, and you will need this bill if they come in your area also. I ask you to vote green. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the previous question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary read House Bill 1149.
House Bill 1149 by Representatives Maynor of the 56th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 81 of Title 36 of the OCGA relating to local government budgets and audits so as to require local constitutional officers to annually report audits of discretionary funds to the General Assembly and for other purposes. The Committee of the Senate on State and Local Government General recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Ginn of the 47th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 48th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Counties report through audits how they spend appropriated funds, but they do not report through audits how they use non-appropriated funds. Non-appropriated funds are funds generated from sources other than taxes. So, for example, when a person interacts with the probate court, they might pay a fee. The fee collected by probate courts are not appropriated and currently not disclosed. Probate judges can use the fees collected at their discretion, including supplemental income. This bill does not change how counties use discretionary fees. It simply requires discretionary fees to be reported. The government provides a service that is administered by elected officials like probate judges. In these roles as elected officers, they will not report the money they collect. And if they use the money for personal income, the law already states they must report the fees they collect as income to the IRS. Now, with this passage of this bill, they will report all fees collected in their county. This bill, which is supported by our friends at ACCG and GMA, I'll just walk through it real quick. Lines 12 and 13, it just strikes the language that hasn't been updated since the mid-90s. And then beginning in line 62 through 84, it just explains further how that reporting will take place. And so a few other examples of discretionary funds that are not appropriated are jail telephone funds, jail commissary funds, fees collected for collecting city taxes, fees for processing passport applications, some minor asset forfeitures, fees for providing officers in schools, and some vital records fees. Bill's pretty simple, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
No questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock machine. Thank you. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 45 and the nays are 5. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Moving on to House Bill 1046. Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 1046 by Representatives Clark of the 100th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 16-13-72, Code Section 31-6-2, and Article 7 of Chapter 7 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to the sale, distribution, or possession of dangerous drugs, definitions relative to the state health planning and development and home health agencies, respectively, so as to authorize advanced practice registered nurses and physician assistants to order home health care services and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommends this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowsert of the 46th District Chairman. The Regulated Industries and Utilities Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 1046, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 31-10-15 and Chapter 34 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to the death certificates and physicians, physician assistants, and others respectively, so as to revise regulations concerning advanced practice registered nurses and physician assistants, to authorize advanced practice registered nurses and physician assistants to sign death certificates, to revise provisions relating to the number of advanced practice registered nurses and physician assistants that a physician can authorize and supervise at any one time, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize Senator from the 45th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate colleagues, I bring HB 1046 before you today. This bill allows APRNs and PAs to sign death certificates if their supervising physician approves this. In the first section, the second section has the original language from SB 460 in it, which is a bill I carried and passed out of this body, where currently physicians can have a total of 8 nurses, up to 4 APRNs and 4 PAs. It doesn't change the total number of nurses they can have. It just changes where they have the flexibility where they could have as many within that 8 count allotment, as many PAs or APRNs that they have, and it helps our physicians in rural Georgia. With that, Mr. President, be happy to answer any questions or yield the well.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objections to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Moving on to House Bill 1053. Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 1053 by Representatives Barrett of the 24th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 50 of the OCGA relating to the state government so as to prohibit governmental agencies from using a central bank digital currency as payment and from participating in testing the use of such currency and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Banking and Financial Institutions recommend that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Summers of the 13th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 27th. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. I bring to you House Bill 1053, which I feel compelled to tell you has been introduced by my state rep, Representative Carter Barrett, and this is his first bill in the Senate. He happens to be in the chamber. So let him feel welcome in whatever way you feel appropriate, or haze him in whatever way you feel appropriate. But he wrote a good piece of legislation here that addresses the concern that many people have over central bank digital currencies, and the bill does two things. It states that Georgia will not participate in any testing of the Fed's proposed digital currency, and it states that if the Fed does proceed with this, state agencies will not accept payment of this new digital currency. The concern with this really surrounds the reality that our banking system thrives on the exchange of currencies and deposits in and out of the system, and the central bank digital currency would threaten that. And the reason that, and that threat is recognized and underscored by the fact that this bill is supported by the Georgia Bankers Association, the Community Bankers Association, and the Georgia Credit Union Association. With that, Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any questions.
You do have one question, Senator. Recognize the senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield?
I do.
Senator, I'm looking through your bill right now, look through Representative Barrett's bill. Can you tell me where it says that we're now allowed to pay for things with gold?
With gold, can you repeat? I had a hard time hearing you. Can you repeat
Gold.
that? What would you say before that?
Gold, where we are now allowed to make payments and pay for items with gold.
I think that would need
currency.
to be an amendment that you need to bring to this,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, no more questions, Senator.
All right, myself and the freshman representative in the back of the room ask for your favorable consideration of this bill.
Only the senator from the 19th deals in gold bullion, you know. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 38, the nays are 11. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary read House Bill 1183.
House Bill 1183 by Representatives Dempsey of the 13th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 16 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to student health in elementary and secondary education, so as to require local school systems to provide certain information to parents and guardians of students grades 6 through 12 on Type 1 and Type 2 diabetes whenever other health information is provided and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon of the 45th District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 48th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This legislation is designed to increase awareness of type 1 and type 2 diabetes. I will not get into the details of type 1, type 2 diabetes. I think we're all well versed in it. All this bill does is say that if a local board of education provides, so they currently provide information on immunizations, infectious disease, medications, or other school health issues to parents and guardians of students ages 6 through 12, then the following information about type 1 and type 2 diabetes shall be included. And then page 2 of the bill goes into the details of the risk factors and warning signs for early detection of type 1 and type 2 diabetes. With that, happy to take any questions, Mr. President.
You waive, Senator. Recognize the senator from the 31st for a question.
Will Senator yield?
From a good friend from the 31st, absolutely.
Can you explain to us what is type 1 diabetes?
Type 1 diabetes. Well, let's get into the details of it.
Recognize the senator from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
Reluctantly.
Yeah, since you avoided that question, I'll give you another opportunity. Can you explain to us what type 2 diabetes is?
It's an advanced form of type 1 diabetes.
Is it twice as bad?
It's twice as bad, at least twice as bad.
You have no more questions.
I would be happy to yield the well, Mr. President. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to the agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 45, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Going to do a couple of special motions. Recognize the senator from the 18th.
The Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 450.
Senators move that the Senate agree to House substitute on SB 450. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 450 by Senators Kennedy of the 18th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 5, 15, 44, and 53 of the OCGA relating to appeal and error, courts, property and wills, trusts, and administration of the states, respectively, so as to clarify that neither superior court nor a state court shall have appellate jurisdiction and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 450, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 5, 15, 32, 40, 44, and 53 of the OCGA relating to appeal and error, courts, highways, bridges and ferries, motor vehicles and traffic, property and wills, trusts, and administration of estates, respectively, so as to clarify that neither superior court nor a state court shall have appellate jurisdiction pursuant to Chapter 3 of Title 5 and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 18th.
Thank you, Mr. President. You may remember, guys, that we talked about 2 years ago. We passed a bill that updated the certiorari appellate process when you appeal cases from a lower court to a superior court. We found that there were some errors or some things that left some ambiguous language in that, the result of which was it wasn't clear that for people who appeal from the probate court to the superior court, you're still guaranteed your right to a jury trial. We corrected that in our version. When it went over to the House, Representative Leverett found that there were a few more words that still contain that same ambiguity, and so this clarifies that, removes that ambiguity, and makes sure that we know that when if you're dealing with a probate court and you want to appeal to the superior court, you do have a right to a jury trial, as well as a few other cleanup parts of the language there. Happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against it? On the motion to agree to the House substitute on Senate Bill 450, those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passes, the yeas are 50 and nays are 0, and the motion has prevailed. Recognize the senator from the 45th for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to House substitute to SB 508.
The senator from the 45th has moved that the Senate agree to House substitute on SB 508. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 508 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 15 of the OCGA relating to courts so as to provide for duties of the administrative office of the courts relative to accessibility of certain personal information of the state and federal judges, justices, and spouses thereof, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 508, a bill to be entitled An Act to Amend Title 15 of the OCGA relating to courts so as to provide for duties of the administrative office of the courts relative to accessibility of certain personal information of state and federal judges, justices, and spouses thereof, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 45th. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. The original portion of 508 had to do with protecting our judges and our justices here in the state of Georgia, giving them the ability to redact their address and phone numbers, their personal information from the public. The addition from the House had to do with drive-by shootings, and it increases the penalties for that, and also kind of clears up some language in that code section, making those laws more specific to convict drive-by shooters. With that, Mr. President, be happy to answer any questions or yield the well.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Senator has moved that the Senate agree to House substitute to SB 508. All in favor of the motion will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 48, the nays are 0, and this motion has prevailed. Recognize the senator from the 4th.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to House substitute Senate Bill 464 as by the amendment number 1. I'd like to speak about the amendment also, please, sir.
Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 464 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others, a bill to be entitled An Act to Amend Article 17 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to teachers and other school personnel so as to establish the school supplies for teachers program subject to appropriation by the General Assembly and the availability of other funds for such purpose and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 464, a bill to be entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education so as to revise the Georgia Early Literacy Act to provide for the identification of up to 5 universal reading screeners and for other purposes. Senator Hickman of the 4th offers the following amendment to amend House substitute to Senate Bill 464 by replacing lines 1 through the end with the following: to amend Title 20 of the OCGA relating to education so as to revise the Georgia Early Literacy Act to provide for 5 members of the Georgia Council on Literacy to be designated as voting members, to revise provisions for constituting a quorum and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 4th to speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. What this amendment has to do with the Georgia Council of Literacy has really been doing a great job, but it's a 30-member council, and we meet on a quarterly basis. We have groups that meet on basically just about a monthly basis. But we decided as a council that we needed to form an executive committee of the council, And so that executive committee could meet and you make decisions on a quicker basis. So in collaboration with the governor and lieutenant governor and the speaker, this is what we came up with. So from among the members provided for in code section 20-1-42, five members of the council will be designated executive committee of voting members of the council as follows: one designated by the governor, one designated by the president of the Senate, one designated by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the member who is the representative of the State Board of Education appointed by the governor, and the chairperson of the council who shall serve as chairperson of such executive committee. A quorum for transacting business of the council shall be the majority of the voting members of the council provided for in the paragraph 1 above. Mr. President, that's it, and I will yield the well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Is there objection to the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the senator moving that we agree to SB 464 as amended will vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0, and this motion has prevailed. All right, back on the rules calendar. House Bill 1335. Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 1335 by Representatives LaHood of the 175th and others, a bill to be entitled An Act to Amend Article 1 of Chapter 7 of Title 31 of the OCGA relating to the regulation of hospitals and related institutions so as to revise staffing requirements for personal care homes, assisted living communities, and memory care centers, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Health and Human Services recommends this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District Chairman. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 1335 came through HHS and does not have anything to do with skilled nursing facilities, but it has to do with memory care units and personal care homes. It basically adjust the placement of nurses in that facility. It allows for devices to be worn by folks, i.e. like in a memory care unit, so if they're not wandering or falling or things like that. So the staffing the number is unchanged. It still requires a nurse, but also allows a medical assistant to be the other person on the wing, so to speak. But if you have the devices in place, that assistant is able to go to the other wing and on a temporary basis to assist patients. And that is all it does. I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. President. If not, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committees which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 42, the nays are 4. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. House Bill 51. Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 51 by Representatives Perkel of the 169th and others, a bill to be entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education so as to authorize local boards of education to use vehicles other than school buses for the transport of all students to and from school and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Education and Youth recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon of the 45th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Education and Youth offers the following substitute to House Bill 51, a bill to be entitled An Act to Amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to elementary and secondary education so as to prohibit any high school which receives funding under the Quality Basic Education Act from working with any high school athletic association and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from 29th.
Good evening, colleagues. One of our members here told me about a situation last year where a public school was going to bring some kids up to tour the Capitol, and on the morning of the tour, the weather was not great, so 4 children showed up for the tour. Well, they couldn't put the children in a van. They couldn't put them in any other school vehicle. They had to put them on a school bus, the large school bus. Reason being is only certain programs are allowed to use other district vehicles to go to anything, whether it's a debate, whether it's a literary meet, no matter what. They have to pull up the big 30-seat school bus and load it up with ever how many children. And so our friends over in the House came up with the idea of allowing them to use other vehicles that are owned, maintained, and managed by the school district in order to move smaller numbers of children around the state to attend different activities and programs. And so that's what this bill would do. Also in the bill, due to a study committee that was held about 1.5 years ago, myself, the senator, several senators started reviewing athletic programs and other things, and what we found was there was a break between the Georgia High School Association and the Independent School Association where they had to go out of the state to participate in athletic events and literary events and some choral events. And so what this bill does, it makes the playing field a little more level so that all school children participating in these activities have the equal opportunity to participate. And with that, Mr. President, I'll stand for any questions, and if there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, sir.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. For what purpose do you rise, Senator?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true the senator from 29th's got a lot of experience of riding the short bus when he was a kid?
Ooh. I feel good about his vote right now, Senator. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 1. This bill, having received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary read House Bill 185.
House Bill 185 by Representatives Gaines of the 120th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 7 of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to Hope scholarships and grants so as to provide for Hope-inclusive post-secondary education grants and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Higher Education recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Hickman of the 4th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Higher Education offers the following substitute to House Bill 185, a bill to be entitled an act to amend amend Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to post-secondary education so as to require the university system provide quarterly reports regarding to certain funding received from foreign adversaries and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 16th. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. HB 185 is a transparency bill. Over the past years, we've had money coming into our colleges from from people who are really our enemies. Since 2013, we've had $1 billion come in from China, and many of these are set up to set up different organizations on campus, Confucius Institutes, things of that nature. What this does is it names our foreign adversaries that as published by our federal government, and then what it requires is our institutions to give us a quarterly listing of donations that come in from foreign adversaries and how that money is used so that we are aware of monies that are coming in from foreign adversaries to our colleges.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, sir.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. And the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 50 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary read House Bill 461.
House Bill 461 by Representatives Thomas of the 21st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 13 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding specific business and occupation taxes, so as to require that the proceeds of local government regulatory fees be used to pay for regulatory activity and not for general operations and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Rules recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Brass of the 28th District Chairman. The Rules Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 461, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 13 of Title 48 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding specific business and occupation taxes, so as to require that the proceeds of local government regulatory fees be used to pay for regulatory activity and not general operations. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize the senator from the 4th. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill, House Bill 461, is really a collaboration between the senator from the 28th, our esteemed Rules Chairman, and Representative Thomas in the House. House Bill 461 does a few simple things to help lower the cost of regulatory fees and establish more consistency across the state, which is better for our consumers. The main part of this bill would eliminate one of the methods that jurisdictions can use to calculate regulatory fees and modify another. Local governments can no longer charge a fee based on the cost of the job or percentage-based fees. The modification to one of the methods, method number 5, is that when using square footage and valuation data to determine the fee, it must be in conjunction with a widely accepted international Code Council formula for new construction projects and for extensive renovations. And extensive, in this case, means more than $75,000. That revision was based on compromise language negotiated between the construction trades and the GMA and ACCG. The other part of the bill cleans up a list of businesses and professions regulated by local governments. This bill was passed in the House and passed out of the rules of 17-0. Mr. President, I yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passes of the bill, the yeas are 46 and the nays are 4. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary read House Bill 499.
House Bill 499 by Representatives Hitchens of the 161st and others, a bill to be entitled An Act to Amend Article 1 of Chapter 6 of Title 19 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding alimony and child support so as to authorize child support and have insurance policies for disabled children who have reached the age of majority and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Children and Family recommends this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd District Chairman. The Children and Family Committee offers the following substitute to House Bill 499, a bill to be entitled An Act to Amend Article 1 of Chapter 6 of Title 19 of the OCGA relating to general provisions regarding alimony and child support so as to authorize support and insurance policies for dependent adult children and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I bring you House Bill 499. What this bill is doing is now allowing a parent that's caring for a dependent adult child that's not capable of supporting themselves because of some physical or mental incapacity to petition for child support in the same way they would if it was a minor child. This is something that'll hopefully help some families in our state that are caring for special needs children that are aged out of child support. Happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Senator from the 30th. He's not there, so. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0. This bill, having received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Recognize Senator from the 46 for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate agree to the House amendment to the Senate substitute to HB 1339.
Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 1339 by Representatives Parrish of the 158th and others. A bill entitled to amend Title 31 of the OCGA relating to health so as to revise relative to certificate of need to amend Code Section 48-7-29-20 of the OCGA relating to tax credits for contributions to rural hospital organizations and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Regulated Industries and Utilities recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Cowsert of the 46th District Chairman. The House offers the following amendment to amend the Senate substitute to House Bill 1339 by striking lines 1 through 1075 and inserting in lieu thereof the following. To amend Title 31 of the OCGA relating to health so as to revise provisions relative to certificate of need, to revise definitions, to provide for review of the state health plan for every 5 years, to eliminate capital expenditure thresholds, and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize Senator from the 46 speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, my pleasure to present the House amendment to our substitute to House Bill 1339. We had this conversation the other day as we talked about all the many efforts we're taking in Georgia to improve our health care. One of the biggest barriers to the sort of building of hospitals and creating new medical services is the certificate of need process, which is a burdensome administrative nightmare for people trying to build new hospitals and new surgery centers and other forms of providing health care to our citizens. We felt like we made a lot of improvements on the House bill. If you remember, we went over many of those the other day, and now let me tell you what they agreed to. They would not agree to all of our changes, but some of the big ones that they would agree to, I'd like to highlight for us here today. Of course, we are focused on rural health care and maternal health care here in the Senate. We're trying to reduce infant mortality. We're trying to take care of our children, take care of women, and we want to be able to get health care to people in rural parts of the state, as the senator from the 26th would say, equal health care to people regardless of what their zip code may be. We have really a good collaborative effort here that's been bipartisan. I want to thank all the input that we received from members of both parties on this and from all parts of the state. A couple of big things that we were able to successfully keep in the bill to help rural areas is an exemption to the CON for rural hospitals. These are in counties with less than 50,000 people, and the House agreed to the majority of our changes there with just a small tweak to the teaching hospital component. You don't have to be a teaching hospital, but if not, you certainly have to have a collaboration with medical schools to host their residents and help train nurses and other doctors. They have agreed to that, but these hospitals have to have an emergency room that's open 24/7, and they have to have a trauma center, at least levels 2, 3, or 4 trauma centers. We have a big emphasis on any of these exemptions that there be indigent care provided by the hospitals. You must accept Medicaid payments, and you must provide indigent care of at least 3% for uncompensated care. That is across the board with every exemption, whether it's a doctor-owned ambulatory surgical center or whether it's a brand new hospital. We also require that they provide psychiatric services. As we know, all the mental health crisis that we have in this state, we want to have them continue providing services for mental health in all of these new facilities. This should make it easier for new hospitals to be built in rural Georgia, and I certainly hope there will be those that are willing to do so. There was one particular exemption that applies specifically to Cuthbert, Georgia, where there was a hospital that closed, a small rural hospital, but they want to reopen it. Current rules are that if you don't reopen within 12 months, you've got to go all the way back to square one and go through the CON process. We're eliminating that requirement as long as you reopen within 24 months. There was a small tweak from the House that you can't reopen if in the interim a new hospital is opened in your community. And that's to keep us from piling these on top of each other. The need would no longer be there. A very strong ad that I tip my hat to the senator from the 27th for putting this on in committee is for birthing centers. We're worried about maternal health care and having women be able to successfully deliver children in a safe manner. This is not a full hospital, but it is a center to set up specifically to provide for women and pregnant women and for childbirth. They are permitted under this bill. That was a Senate ad that the House agreed to. There are a few changes they wanted to make absolutely sure that they were near another established facility in case things went awry during the childbirth and their process. There would have to be a transfer arrangement with a local hospital within a reasonable distance that could provide care. We also agreed that with the House ad here that if it is determined to be an at-risk pregnancy after 20 weeks, then they must go ahead and transfer care to an already established trauma center level hospital nearby. So in at-risk pregnancies, we want to make sure these patients are getting the best care possible. One of the areas of this dealt with capital equipment, capital expenditures. This bill eliminates in many cases the need to have to get a CON or get government approval to update your equipment, buy new equipment, expand your equipment. The House makes it clear that this is not for new imaging centers that would compete with established hospitals. But if you have an imaging center and you want to update, buy new equipment, you're free to do that now without a CON. And one of the exciting areas of that deals with the PET scan machines that detect cancer in an early state. These will now be permitted without a CON if you already have the CON for that type of service. You may buy the equipment, upgrade the equipment without going through the process again. That will be good for all of our cancer patients around the state. There were some administrative changes as well. Very few changes or tweaks from the House. We had only a couple of areas that were sort of significantly reduced by the House. You will recall we had a lengthy discussion about multi-specialty practices and could you have physicians from different specialties practicing together. We proposed that that would make sense, especially if you only had one single specialty surgery center connected with them. The House will not go along with that proposed change. They will agree, and in their amendment agree to have multiple doctors of the same specialty work in the same practice and sharing a surgical center that not all of them are owners of. A small concession, but that probably will help the practice of medicine in the state of Georgia. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have about these changes. There's one last thing, and I know it's important to a couple of our members. We wanted to make it so that we broadened the definition of cardiology so that interventional radiologists, vascular surgeons, and cardiologists could work together as one specialty. The idea that I had here was if you had an abnormality and you did a cath and you found a problem, you could go ahead and stent that at the same time, not open heart surgery. But we thought that made a lot of sense, and the House refused to agree with that. Other than that, I think it's pretty well. They agreed with our provisions, particularly those new facilities in rural areas. Well, there's one I hadn't mentioned to you that I know some of you may be very interested in, and that deals with Morehouse School of Medicine's idea that they want to create a new teaching hospital. The House went along with our proposal that we give the green light to Morehouse without having to go through a CON process. There will be some restrictions there, but they're going to be able to grow in size. They have to be near their current campus, but that fills the void from Atlanta Medical Center when it shut down, and their South Fulton facility. So that is exciting, good news for not only rural areas, but urban areas that are underserved and have essentially a healthcare desert. I would encourage us to support this. I hate to think about us getting tied down in a conference committee process running through day 39, day 40, not knowing for sure what's going to happen here. So I would encourage you to agree with this House substitute. One last thing on rural health care that I didn't mention is it keeps the rural health care tax credit in, that this expands it from 75 million to 100 million. That is very important to the existing rural hospitals, especially the small ones that are trying to survive and stay open for citizens nearby them. I appreciate everybody's efforts together here. This couldn't happen without this entire body working. I know everybody didn't get everything they want. There are some in our body. Our own study committee essentially came out and said if it were up to us, we would abolish the entire CON process to eliminate that barrier to competition and to make medical services more available to all Georgians. That is not politically possible at this time. So sometimes you have to take what you can get. We've made some great strides with this bill in opening up medical care, medical services, hospitals to many parts of our state. It makes it easier to avoid all this administrative red tape, delays, competition between hospitals, trying to block their competition. And I would strongly urge you to agree to go along with this and agree to the House substitute. Mr. President, I'm happy to take any questions there may be.
You do have a couple questions, Senator. Right. Recognize Senator from 27th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Chairman, do you yield for a couple questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, isn't it true that you, myself, the senators from the 32nd, 28th, 1st, 12th, and 15th all joined with a number of other healthcare experts, traveled the state over the course of last summer and fall, and as I think you just mentioned, came back with a primary recommendation that we follow our neighbors to the east and our neighbors to the south, both who in the last 5 years have completely repealed certificate of need. Of course, they followed states like California, Texas, states in the north and northeast that had all done the same. And then we came up with a list of secondary recommendations, isn't it true, that were bipartisan, that are reflected in this piece of legislation. Isn't that true?
That is exactly true. And it like I say, this has been collaborative. And I think you probably mentioned there, I don't know everybody's seats by their numbers, but that is a bipartisan panel you're reflecting that toured the entire state, heard from people in all regions to see what their input was, and this tries to deliver upon their request.
And is it true, Chairman, in the last week or two we sent over this bill in a more significant or more robust form that dealt with heart cath centers, dealt with the ambulatory, the ASCs that you mentioned? That's been removed by the House, which I would love to see that in here. But with all of that, I guess, in mind, isn't it true this is a very limited and tailored approach to dealing with a certificate of need that doesn't go as far as probably you and I would both like it to, but is a step in the right direction?
Absolutely, and it's a significant step. I don't mean to downplay it. I mean, we're talking about a lot of changes that reduce these barriers to competition and that prevent new healthcare services being provided to patients all around the state. I'm proud of this effort. I commend the House for working with us. They were absolutely splendid to work with. Chairman Parrish, the Speaker, his Chief of Staff, many people on that side, Representative Hawkins, former Senator Hawkins. These people have spent just as much time as we have. They're not quite as aggressive or ambitious as we are in getting to the end goal of reducing this government red tape in healthcare. But it's complex, and I appreciate all of their good efforts. I appreciate the statesmanlike, diplomatic way that they worked with us. You never saw this get personal, get ugly, get angry, and it's been an enjoyable process. Okay.
You do have a couple more questions. Senator from the 20th.
Thank you. Mr. President, with the senator yield.
I'll be glad to yield to you.
Thank you for your hard work on this, and thank you for the leadership of the Lieutenant Governor and his staff. This does really, I think, make a positive impact on our healthcare system. It's going to help our hospitals not have to deal with the really outdated, onerous bureaucracy that they've been dealing with, and allow them to be more nimble and respond to the market and more, speed to market. I like a lot of what I see in here. Not having a lot of time to look at the bill, I just wanted to drill down a little bit on the ambulatory surgical center
Yes, sir.
situation. So current law allows for a hospital to have a ambulatory surgical center with a single specialty, I think.
That's true, or physician practice good as well.
And so this is still a single specialty ASC under this compromise.
That is, yeah. So you can have an orthopedic center, you can have a cardiology center, you could have a dermatology center or a cancer center. You just can't mix them together here.
So one of my questions is, do they require a CON if it's new, or?
We have the exemption for those single specialties.
Okay, thank you. And would you further yield?
Be glad to.
Sticking with that topic, I know we wanted to allow physicians to share, of different specialties, to share space. Were we able to retain that, or?
Here's the problem on that. That was something we were fighting hard for, because it makes so much sense to have a pediatrician with an OBGYN and maybe a ENT all in one practice, and sharing a surgical center. These doctors can practice together, but not if they have a surgical center.
Okay.
So we can have that as far as offering their services. You can have a doctor's office building with many specialties, but if the group has a surgical center, you can't have multi-specialties, and I'm disappointed in that, and I hope we'll get there one day, and I want to encourage our doctors, don't give up. We're going to reduce barriers for you gradually.
Thank you. Would you yield for another question
Absolutely.
or two? So it's real important for my hospitals in my district, this HEART program, which is where you can contribute to the rural hospitals and get a state tax credit, and I'm very excited to see that cap lifted from 75 million to 100 million. That's a real big help.
That's a 1/3 increase, so they'll see a lot more funding come through.
Are there any other? So the definition of rural hospitals, we don't have any changes there. Is there any?
I believe it does broaden it up some. I don't have that right in front of me, that data, but I think it makes it easier for them to qualify for these tax credits.
Okay. Well, I really, again, want to thank you for your work on this, and Senator Dolezal and all the people that were involved, and look forward to supporting the bill. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Senator from the 26th, do you have your light on to speak or to ask a question? Okay. Well, floor is yours to ask a question.
Senator,
I yield to my
what
friend.
happened to an OBGYN and a pediatrician set up office outside of the hospital? Are they able to do it without a CON?
I believe they can do it without a CON, but they can't have a surgical center.
I'm not worried about the surgical center. What I worry about is the pediatrician sees about the babies after get here. And my concern was they had to do a CON if they were outside the hospital setting to set up an office with an OBGYN and a pediatrician.
I do not believe a CON is required, but I would defer to some of the doctors in our midst to answer that if I'm incorrect on that. So before you get up here, Senator from the 26th, we want to hear what you say. You and I have had many, many conversations about health care in Georgia, especially rural Georgia. I assured you, and the Lieutenant Governor assured you, that we would include the discussion of Medicaid expansion in this conversation. And we had a very thorough hearing this morning, and you presented your bill. And there were a lot of people speaking for and against it. There were considered amendments, and I want to applaud you for getting that conversation going. And sometime we need to understand that these things happen one step at a time. And I think this is a step towards it. What I didn't really mention, and you kind of reminded me when you stood up to speak, because I know that's your passion, that's your heart, and that's important to us. I know you wish that was here, but don't forget, we establish a commission in this bill that's going to operate for a couple of years and look at our delivery of medical service, look at insurance availability, look at Medicaid expansion. We will examine that and try to find the way to make sure we can get affordable health care to everybody. Everybody in Georgia, no matter your zip code, no matter how wealthy you are, no matter how poor you are. One thing that came out in that hearing this morning was that every single speaker that spoke on it agreed Governor Kemp's program for access to Medicaid has been a raving success as far as signing people up that are eligible for Medicaid. The Georgia Access Program is just state of the art. The other thing that the governor's been working on after very carefully crafting a waiver to the Medicaid expansion rules that was granted by the Trump administration and then later yanked by the Biden administration and now on appeal, is that many speakers said this creative use of private insurance through a waiver plan is best for all. It gives the patients the ability to afford coverage and to have their own network of care, essentially have more choice as to where they get their medical care. It helps the physicians and it helps the hospitals by them being able to be paid at the reimbursement rates of private insurance companies, which is over 100% of their cost, instead of a Medicaid rate that might be 65% of the cost. So you've got both patients and doctors and physicians liking this type of waiver using private insurance. Now, this plan has not been widely accepted or adopted yet, but part of that is because of the problems getting the waiver in place. And part of it, of course, has been COVID. For 3 years at the same time we were doing this. And so I made a point this morning, and I think it's shared by a lot of people, that, you know, our governor's done one heck of a job leading this state through some really tough times, through the COVID epidemic, you know, through financial troubles, through other social upheavals. And he's on to something here, and it's catching on, it's getting a little traction. And I think it's only fair to let's give this program a chance to work before we replace it with just yet another waiver program doing essentially the same thing but covering more people, or attempting to. And I may be simplifying that a bit, but that's about what was involved in the legislation we saw for Medicaid expansion today. It was to keep using Georgia Access. It was to keep using a waiver, but it'd be a whole new waiver we'd have to do that used private insurance. So we're on to something. And we as a state are heading the right direction. And I urge you just to let's let that play out, and let's keep this discussion going, because if it doesn't gain traction and ensure more Georgians, as we're trying to do, then we can come back and we can see what the commission says, and we can gradually get to where you want to be. And Senator, I appreciate your mentorship of me in this, and our cooperation and our collaboration. I would really strongly encourage the minority party to take this step forward. It's not a baby step, it's a big step. It's a giant step forward in expanding medical care to Georgians. And then let's get ready to take another step next year or the year after until we accomplish our goals.
Senator from 16th, you have a question?
I yield.
Yes, sir. I was going to ask,
you mentioned birthing centers, that we are putting in birthing centers in this bill. One of the things I see is that as we had the heartbeat bill, and we say we love children, we've done work, and the Lieutenant Governor's going to work on the issue of adoption. This center issue, how are those set up? How are they determined? Because I've had a lot of conversations with people saying, hey, we just need help, especially in the OB area, because there's just a limited amount of practice that's in those areas. And how does that get determined? Just curious.
Well, we still have a need for OBGYNs, and we need them especially in rural areas. And so we're going to be doing what we can to encourage those. One thing about these rural hospitals is they're required to collaborate and have agreements to help train residents for teaching hospitals if they're not one themselves. And hopefully they'll be drawing some in those areas. We've learned over the years that where a doctor does his residency is maybe the biggest determinative factor of where they end up establishing their practice. That's why we want to do this. And we hope there'll be some OBGYNs that will be doing that. A lot of states use these birthing centers that are less formal environment than a hospital, for delivering children. And a lot of women are more comfortable with that, but they're also a whole lot less overhead like you have to use to build out an entire new hospital. So if these places are safe, they have an arrangement with the local hospital to transport a patient there if they need to, and they give perinatal care. That's the new term. Right. Take care of these women during their pregnancies and after their delivery, then they can be very effective in providing services to women in remote areas of the state.
Last question.
Sure.
Is air ambulance or the ability to get, are we looking at anything, or is anything included in this? Because what I see is we have great centers here in Atlanta and multi-million dollars of equipment and things of that nature. But if you're in South Georgia or you need to be here, is any of that included in any of this legislation?
Not specifically air ambulances, but we require you to be basically within 25 miles of a hospital that can help you, or have a transfer agreement and arrangement where if your patient ends up being in distress, we can get them to a trauma level center to take care of them.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
You have no further questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I appreciate all of your help and your attention, and I ask you to agree with this motion, to agree with the House substitute to the Senate version. I yield the will.
Recognize Senator from 26.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I'm going to vote for this. I worked at it and tried to get some things in. But let me tell you something. We had a meeting this morning on Medicaid expansion. I'm tired of folks lying about pathways. You got 2,900 folks in it and spent $26 million. Don't bring those false narratives up here. The people are in ACH, about 730,000. I thought I had a chance to get it to the Senate floor, send it to the House, and we had that discussion. But what I saw at work was the second floor. All of a sudden, the conversation was, let's give Pathways a chance. Pathways has had a chance. North Carolina expanded Medicaid, 300,000 signed up. 300,000. I don't need folks lying in a committee talking about it's got these many folks, and it doesn't. It's on record what they got. Plus, the insurance premium is a little bit high. and there's a work requirement in it. And what CMS said, that you can't have a work requirement in Medicaid expansion. And those states who submitted it with a work requirement were turned down, so they had to either do a severability clause to go ahead and enter the program or change it and take the work requirement out. Now, what North Carolina did was work enforcement, workforce, which you have people to go out and try to help folks better their situations. Their plan was approved. And so we got the so-called thing amended this morning, but we lost it by one vote. I was surprised. But that's all right. When you're the governor, you got influence. But his program don't work. It does not work. And we've got $26 million invested in it. So when these rural hospitals close, when we leave session, I'm gonna blame it on you. You had the opportunity to make sure that they don't close. And some of them got 4 or 5 days working capital. It's unsustainable. Unsustainable. So when it happens and you read about it in the paper, don't say anything about it because you could have done something about it. Mr. President, I yield the way.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hearing none. The motion is the Senate agree to the House amendment to the Senate substitute to HB 1339. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from 7th, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. President.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, is it not true? If Republicans cared about maternal health, we would have moved forward with Medicaid expansion this morning?
We're moving forward on access to health care, Senator. On the passage of the motion, the yeas are 34 and the nays are 17, and this motion has prevailed. Congratulations, Senator. Good job, too. Back on the rules calendar, we're on House Bill 516. Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 516 by Representatives McCollum of the 30th and others, a bill entitled An Act to Amend Article 4 of Chapter 2 of Title 32 of the OCGA relating to exercise of power to contract by the Department of Transportation so as to increase the minimum amount for a public road construction or maintenance contract and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Transportation recommends this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dolezal of the 27th District Chairman. The Senate Committee on Transportation offers the following substitute to House Bill 516, a bill to be entitled An Act to Amend Title 32 of the OCGA relating to highways, bridges, and ferries, so as to increase the minimum amount for a public road construction or maintenance contract that prohibits negotiation and for other purposes. Amendment 1, Summers of the 13th and others offer the following amendment to amend House Bill 516. On line 96, strike including those on which commercial advertisements are placed. Insert used for directional and informational purposes only. Senator Albers of the 56th and others offers the following amendment to amend 516 by inserting on line 21 and 22 before it to provide for related matters the following: to prohibit the use of speed detection devices upon highways in the federal interstate highway system in certain circumstances, by inserting between lines 217 and 218 the following: Section 8, Code Section 40-14-2 of the OCGA relating to permit required for the use of speed detection devices and for other purposes. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Recognize Senator from the 27th. Senators from the 27th. It's your bill. The Transportation Chair has the transportation bills.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bring before you House Bill 516, which has turned into a little bit of a omnibus department bill, both for GDOT and then also something we've been working on for the city of Atlanta. I'll walk you through the bill. Section 1 changes the threshold for quick start projects, which is the GDOT program that does things like puts turn lanes and other things that can be fast response projects into all of our districts. I think it's important for you to know before you vote on this that even though we are increasing the threshold, these are still subject to public advertising for bids. They have to get a minimum of 3 bids, and the project is still awarded to the lowest bids. This still is a competitive bid project. Section 2 deals with a couple cleanup items for the P3 projects that are part of the GDOT procurement process. Section 3, this is the City of Atlanta piece. We work with the City of Atlanta to allow them to install wayfinding kiosks and kiosks on state roads. If you've been driving around the city, you will have seen a number of these kiosks on the side of the city roads. They have asked, in preparation for the World Cup, to install up to 30 of these on state roads that are within the City of Atlanta only. So this only applies to the City of Atlanta. They have to be installed by the summer of 26. They're limited to 30. They're subject to approval by GDOT, so it may not even be that they do hit 30. There's a number of other restrictions that we put in place, working with both the city and GDOT to get everyone happy there. Section 4, there's a road in Union County, and I've talked to Sheriff Mac Mason and Leader Gooch about this. There's a road in Union County that has had a number of safety issues, and this addresses that safety issue by putting some traffic control devices in place and limiting who can have access to that particular stretch of road in Union County. Section 5 increases speed limits on state highways that are physically divided. Section 6 deals with rail funding as it relates to the freight and logistics program, and allowing for freight logistics funding to cover administrative costs. And Section 7 is just some cleanup language around some dates. With that, Mr. President, I'm happy to answer any questions.
You do have one question, I think. Senator from 13th, or you just want to reference, you want to talk to your amendment in a second? Okay, I'll give you time in a second.
I will mention, I think there's 2 amendments. I think one is going to be withdrawn, and the other one, a number of you have signed, and I would view that as a friendly amendment as well. I think the senator from the 13th will outline his reasoning for bringing that amendment to us.
Okay. You have no questions, Senator. Recognize Senator from the 13th.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to withdraw amendment number 1, please.
Without objection, amendment number 1 is withdrawn. Would any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure?
You got amendment number 2.
Oh, yeah. We got amendment 2. Senators from the 56, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment 2 is very simple. It just simply says that no county sheriff or law enforcement agency is allowed to run radar unless they have at least 5 contiguous miles of highway on a federal highway. It just prevents a couple of very, very small towns of annexing a quarter or a half a mile of the highway for the purpose of writing citations. This has support from our friends in the law enforcement community. It's a good bill, and if there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
Recognize the senator for the 14th.
President, does the senator yield?
Always to my friend from the 14th.
Senator, is it not true that in 2013, while traveling to visit an ex-girlfriend in Montgomery, Alabama, I, a young and impetuous man, was traveling along I-85 through a small town that I will not name when I saw a speed trap that was so sneaky that I was offended in my core and immediately started flashing my high beams trying to warn oncoming drivers, for which I was pulled over by one of these over-aggressive officers in one of these spaces, taken to municipal court where the case was promptly dismissed, and I was told, however, by a very confident and jolly police chief, don't worry, we can do that. And isn't it true that that's why I support your amendment today?
Well, Senator, you're very passionate about your situation and your experience, and I think this will just make sure that we have parity and we all support our law enforcement, and we just want to make sure that everybody's doing their job properly.
Thank you, Senator.
Recognize senator from 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, do you yield?
I yield.
Senator, I walked in a little bit late. Did you state the purpose of this? And if you did, could you restate the purpose of this amendment?
Yes, we've got some of our very smaller municipalities and counties that have annexed half a mile, quarter mile of certain federal interstates for the sole purpose of running radar in a very small stretch of road that really have created a speed trap type of scenario. And this makes it 5 contiguous miles to make sure people aren't specifically trying to annex small places of the interstate just for that purpose. Those areas are already covered by the greater county and the state patrol, and this is the support of the law enforcement community.
Do you further yield?
I yield.
So are we just going to assume that, what if the town or the city was built around the interstate? There's not 5 contiguous miles. It wasn't annexed in. So are we just going to assume that they're out there for speed traps and for revenue? We're assuming that our law enforcement is out there for the wrong reasons?
I don't think we'll ever make an assumption, Senator. I certainly wouldn't. This is something that's been agreed upon by the law enforcement community. And I think that this just prevents maybe an overzealous city or county government from looking for additional revenue, more so than the law enforcement officers themselves.
Senator.
Thank you.
Senator from the 30th. First time to the well. Looks like he's got bad intentions on his mind. Going to come speak against the bill, huh?
I'm not going to speak against the bill. I am going to speak against this amendment. And I do appreciate everyone's support to law enforcement. I'm going to come up here in support of families who have their lives destroyed because of speeders. You may have a rogue sheriff's office or police department out there that may have 1,000 feet, and that's what I was told. Someone with 1,300 feet of interstate in their county is writing a lot of tickets. I understand that. I disagree with what they're doing if they're doing it for revenue. This is 5 contiguous miles. We have sheriff's office that are short-staffed. Our state troopers are short-staffed. Who's going to be out there slowing down the vehicles on the interstate systems for 5 miles? I worked in one of these cities. I was very proud to work for the city of Douglasville, which I think is a great law enforcement agency. I worked on the motorcycle division, traffic enforcement, serious injuries, and fatality accidents. I know my friend from the 29th has probably done what I had to do before. Knock on a door and tell someone that their child is dead. We used to see signs all the time that said speed kills. It does. We're taking a tool away to protect our public. If we're mad about someone, talk to them. Do something. But 5 miles? Folks, we're going to have fatalities on these highways greater than we've seen in quite some time if we do this bill. Again, I appreciate the support to our law enforcement community. I was there, done it, just like my friend from the 29th. 99.9% of them's out there doing the right thing. Yes, there's probably that 0.1 that's doing the wrong thing. I'll ask that you vote against the amendment, but please vote your conscience. I just want to let you know from the experience standpoint, we will see an increase in fatalities on our highway, and we're going to have, or one of our law enforcement officers that we support is going to have to make that knock on that door and tell a loved one their child is dead. And Mr. President, if there's no questions.
Question, Senator. Senator from the 17th.
Senator Yield.
To my good friend from the 17th, yes.
I share concerns about the amendment because I guess the question would be, do we know which counties, how many cities in our districts will be impacted by this?
5 miles, I think it's going to impact a lot of counties and a lot of cities. And go to the speed traps question that was brought up. In Georgia, we do have a law that a police car, municipal, or county must be visible 500 feet to run radar. They got to be 500 feet away from a speed reduction sign. I said, what we're doing here, 5 miles, it's 5,280 feet in a mile, about 26,000 feet that we're talking about. So, any other questions, Mr. President? No more?
You have no.
Thank y'all for voting no on this amendment.
Recognize the Senator from the 29th.
I want to start out by saying that when my friend from the 30th got here, I no longer felt like a man lost in the wilderness. I had somebody that had done the job just like I did the job, and we got to be great friends years ago when he was the director of Gypstick, and he's always been a good friend, but even more so a good law enforcement brother, and I appreciate that. But what we've gotten here is what we've seen, and I can show you the maps on my phone from text messages. We're down in South Georgia. There are municipalities that have annexed in slivers of interstate, and they focus out there and do it. And let me explain to you, and my friend from the 30th, the same way I am, I do believe. We take a lot of pride not only in being law enforcement officers, but being good, honest, ethical law enforcement officers. I can tell you throughout my career, I wrote more warnings than I did citations. There's nothing that breaks your heart more than to see a life lost by the reckless conduct of another person, whether it's a DUI, whether it's a speeder, or whether it's somebody just not paying attention. But our law enforcement agencies throughout the years at times have lost their way. I see too many vehicles that are ghosted, which means to see the decal on the side of the vehicle, you have to be almost next to the vehicle. Law enforcement is not out there to sneak up and catch people speeding. They're not out there to sneak through neighborhoods unseen. That's the reason you see Atlanta Police Department now riding around with the static blue light on top of their vehicles because they want the citizens to know they're there. They want the bad guys to know they're there, so they'll go away and go somewhere else. Law enforcement should never, ever, ever be used as a revenue source. I wish that cities would not anticipate law enforcement revenue. It just happens, they see it, they take it, and they put it back into there. We are short of law enforcement officers, which is why I am a huge proponent of technology, of speed cameras in school zones, of other technology that can work. And I see individuals shaking their head, and what I really, really like is the senator from the 30th knows what I'm talking about. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an engineer. I'm a law enforcement officer. And the senator from the 30th and I can sit in a room together and talk hours about it. But I think this gets the point to where it needs to be. We have small agencies that are taking advantage of citizens driving through these areas. And please understand, most of these are not people that live there. They're people driving through. And so when they get through, they don't get to come back and go to court in most cases. They handle it through online or they handle it over the telephone. So please, I ask that you support the amendment and the underlying bill. And with that, Mr. President, if there aren't any questions, I'll yield the well.
You do have one question,
I'm
Senator.
for the amendment.
I recognize Senator from the 30th.
This gentleman yield.
Absolutely. To my friend who just had his first experience in the well.
Is it not true? I pretty much agree with everything that you just said from the well.
I do hope you did.
Do you think this amendment, while I know the intentions, this amendment punishes everybody, including the good agencies, to go after one or two?
I think what this does is the way the amendment's written, as narrow as it is, I think what it does is it addresses those that are generating or using, and it's the chiefs. I'm going to tell you that. I tell everybody, you show me a bad police officer, I'll show you a bad chief. You show me a bad deputy, I'll show you a bad sheriff. I wish every chief would say, let's focus on this. I think speeders should be a happenstance. I don't think we should hunt over baited fields. I think it should be a happenstance that someone catches a speeder while they're sitting in a patrol car. A lot of these smaller agencies solve that problem by putting unoccupied marked vehicles out there as a message to get people to slow down. But do I believe that there will be a certain degree of unintended consequences with this? I have no doubt. I think that happens with every piece of legislation we pass out of here. But if we could take the 35% number right now that cities are able to generate from traffic control and using their budget, if we could take that number down to 25 or 20%, I may not have supported this. But that right now is being hamstrung, so I think this is the next best solution to that.
Yo, for one other question.
Absolutely.
Is it not true? I would have supported you 100% on that amendment instead of this one. And go ahead.
I do believe that. From serving with you on public safety, I do believe you would support that.
And while I think we're probably going to disagree on this, one of those unintended consequences could be the loss of a life if we pass this.
I do not disagree with my friend on that.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. And with that, Mr. President, I'll yield the well.
Senator has yielded. We have another amendment, Amendment 2A. We're going to read that real quick. Secretary.
Amendment 2A by Senators Anna Vitarte of the 31st and others. They offer the following amendment to amend Amendment 2 of Senate Bill 516 by striking 5 on line 13 and replace with 1. That completes the order, Mr. President.
Senators from the 31st. Senator from the 31st, you waive? Okay. Recognize Senator from the 28th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to oppose this amendment for multiple reasons. Number one, I think assuming that every law enforcement, local law enforcement, is out on the highways for revenue generating is, well, it's just poor. It's lazy, and it's not something we should just assume. If you want to put in an amendment to tie everything to a percentage, that would make more sense. Because then you actually do rat out the actual problem. I sat in Finance Committee last night and watched bill after bill getting a substitute in the last minutes before we voted with very little debate. Half of it, we don't know what we passed. That is very dangerous because we're talking about lives there. We're talking about livelihoods. In this case, we have the chairman of public safety bringing an amendment in the last minutes when he controls the committee. And he's putting it on a department bill. I've heard all session, this is a department bill. It's got to move. It's a department bill. We can't amend it. And here we are, amending a department bill that came out of public safety by the chairman. We heard deals were made and people agreed. I heard that last night. And guess what? A lot of it wasn't true. Because I heard from them today, the people that these deals were made with. No deal was ever made. This is a bad idea. It's bad timing. Please vote down this amendment.
All right, I thought this was going to be a quick one. Somebody stepped off in an ant bed, though. All right, I recognize the senator from the 13th. Speak to this.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to ask you to support Amendment Number 2 and not support Amendment Number 2A. I happen to live in an area where I have a lot of interstate in my area. And I'll tell you, this bill does not stop the sheriffs from taking care of our highways. It does not stop the state patrol from taking care of our highways. This bill basically narrows it down to where you've got a small little section where a city inside several cities, a big city, has annexed a little portion of the road and they're using it for a revenue stream. Now, having said that, we keep talking about 5 miles. When everybody can do math in their head, if 5 miles, you're running 60 miles an hour, it's going to take you how long? 5 minutes. Well, most people are running, 75 miles an hour out there. So you're, boom, and you've gone 5 miles. Okay, the point is, my back door here is this, this is not that far on the interstate. This is not that far on the interstate to go. It's pretty short, to be honest with you. And the reality of it is the sheriffs are getting blamed for all these tickets. I know what you did, thank you. Very kind of you, Senator. But the sheriff's getting blamed for all these tickets that are coming across their fleet, and the sheriff's department's not writing these tickets. And as the senator said, these people are traveling up and down the highway. They have no chance to come back and fight this in court. What do? They have to mail in their money. So if you got people that travel interstate and you want to let them get tickets and just have to pay the bill, vote for them, but shorten the distance. If you want to make it 5 miles, I encourage you to vote for Amendment Number 2 and don't vote for 2A. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Senator's yielded. Recognize the senator from the 37th. Speak to the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I know the hour is late, but I want to speak for some citizens who I've heard from, but most importantly, I want to speak for law enforcement. There is a crisis in support for law enforcement that has emerged in our country over the last 5 years. It was really, really bad in the summer of 2020 as I was going door to door and campaigning, and we need to build a culture of support for law enforcement. But I believe this over-policing of our roads serves to erode support for law enforcement. I was driving south on Interstate 75 within the last 6 months on business. I was driving to St. Augustine, Florida on a project. And I won't mention which senator's district I was driving through, but as I was driving down on business, had no reason to speed. It was in the afternoon, about 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And in one county, south of Macon, there's one county, there were 3 on the southbound side alone. There were 3 speed traps in one county. I couldn't believe my eyes. The county before there were 2, and I thought, oh my goodness, 2 speed traps in the southbound lane in one county. Couldn't believe it. So when I got to the next county, I saw 3. I said, I've never seen anything like this. And before I left the county, there was another one, a fourth, and there were city cops. Friends, when citizens are pulled over for driving what would otherwise be a safe speed in good conditions, although albeit above the speed limit, I'm not trying to excuse that, but citizens who know they're fundamentally driving safely and they're pulled over and popped, when it's speed trap after speed trap after speed trap, you know what the effect of that is? It undermines support for public safety. Soccer moms who come home crying because they're pulled over by a police officer for driving 46 and a 35, come home crying with the kids in the back, and they say, why'd I get pulled over for that? I was driving safely. It was a completely clear day. Speed limit on this road, most places would probably be 45, but it happened to be 35. And what happens is it undermines support for law enforcement. My concern is support for law enforcement, not revenue for small cities. And I'll close by saying this. I talked yesterday about speaking for regular folks. We talk about a speeding ticket that may be $250, and with fees tacked on it, may be a $275 or $280 ticket. But do you know what that ticket really costs to the family? When that moving violation for 2 or 3 or 4 points hits their insurance, and it hits their insurance for $30 a month for 36 months, it's not a $250 fine. That is a $1,300 hit to the bottom line of a family. It is a $1,300 sock in the nose to a working class family that's trying to be safe. They may be driving around a truck that's driving, so they're trying to get around the truck quickly so they can safely pass them. And as they emerge around the truck, bam, they're going too fast, they got popped. I've got a family member on that same stretch of road who got popped, trying to pass a truck, get around them quickly. As they emerged around the truck, bam, they got hit by in a speed trap. Because of that point of time to get around the truck quickly, they exceeded the speed limit and got popped with a speeding ticket. I say this, folks, not because I want to be loose about the law, but because we need to support law enforcement and not undermine the support for law enforcement by what I believe to be poor judgment in what is being purported as supporting safety, but in practice is felt by regular citizens as being something else. Support for law enforcement is too important to jeopardize with a small county in South Georgia having 4 speed traps in one county. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. And I just want to say to law enforcement, we care about you. We want to support you. Don't do things that undermine the support for your vital mission by some of the practices we're talking about. I support the amendment for 5 miles. I appreciate the person that would bring it. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the will.
Senator for the 18th, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
I'm just wondering if the members of this esteemed body are aware that we do have dinner ready in
It's
the
getting
anteroom.
cold too, Senator.
Yes, sir, and I thought that might be some encouragement with regard to the debate that we might have or not have going forward.
It's
Thank
getting
you.
cold too. I think we know the issues well enough now that you can vote red or green at this point in time. So, Senator from the 30th.
Parliamentary inquiry.
For what purpose do you rise?
Since the last speaker yielded well, what he was describing with the police cars on the road that he saw in 4 different counties, instead of a speed trap, could they actually been working drug interdiction?
You'll have to talk to him offline if he's not in the well, Senator. All right, Senator from the 56th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to clear up some confusion. I don't see the senator from the 28th in here anymore. I'm afraid he wasn't here in the beginning of the debate. Maybe he was confused. So let's clear the record. First and foremost, this bill went through the Transportation Committee, not the Public Safety Committee. The issue was brought today by another senator to address problems in his district. Third, if you're an ex officio at a committee and you aren't paying attention, maybe you shouldn't be an ex officio in those committees anymore. And lastly, don't you ever question, ever, my loyalty and work for anybody in law enforcement or public safety. Thank you. I yield the well.
All right. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Senator from the 27th, would you like to close debate? Senator from the 27th, would you like to close debate? You wave? Okay. You saw him wave off the opportunity, didn't you? All right. So the question is on the amendments here. On Amendment 2A, authored by the senator from the 31st. Is there objection to 2A? That objection. Did we hear an objection? All right. Objection. All those in favor, we're just going to put it on the board. All those in favor of 2A will vote yay. All those against, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption of Amendment 2A, the yeas are 12 and the nays are 38, and this amendment has failed. Now on Amendment number 2, authored by the Chair of Public Safety, Senator from the 56th. Is there objection to Amendment number 2? There is objection. All right. All those in favor of Amendment number 2 will vote yay. All those opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption of Amendment number 2, the yeas are 25 and the nays are 24, so this amendment has prevailed. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there, Senator from the 30th, for what purpose do you rise?
Motion to reconsider.
Motion to reconsider. There's objection. There's multiple objections. So on the motion to reconsider, all those in favor vote yay. All those opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 31st, for what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that there is not 5 contiguous miles on the top end of 285 of any law enforcement agency currently?
Senator would know what he speaks. Senator from 56, for what purpose you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State your
President.
inquiry.
Isn't it true we just had this vote and we should just move on to the other business of the Senate?
Senator is passionate about what he speaks. Senator from the 14th, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that you should serve for 5 consecutive months as a senator before moving for reconsideration?
Senator's passionate. Senator from the 19th, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I was just going to ask if the ag agents can now patrol these mileage.
Senator, you making friends everywhere right now. On the motion to reconsider, the yeas are 22, the nays are 27. And the motion to reconsider has failed. Senator from the 30th, you sure have been quiet up until this moment in time. What purpose do you rise?
Don't laugh at me on this one, Mr. President, but I ask for unanimous consent to be excused from voting on House Bill 516 on the underlined bill pursuant to Senate Rule 5-1.8D.
Going fight. Wow. Senator from the 28th. Sit down, Senator from the 30th. We don't heard enough of you. Senator from the 28th. So what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I move that HB 516 be moved to the table.
All right, objection. Wow. Pro Tem, I had no idea about this one. So, all right, the senator from the 28th has moved that we table. We have objection. All those in favor of tabling the bill will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 51st, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true this is a DOT housekeeping bill that needs to move to the House and then they can straighten this out if need
As
be?
a former DOT member, the chair knows what he speaks. Senator from the 14th, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that when you eat dinner, you can't recuse yourself from all the calories except protein?
Only in America. On the motion to table, the yeas are 20, the nays are 29. So, all right. So, question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none. What? All right. Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea, opposed nay. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 51st, what purpose did you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State you're inquiring.
Isn't it true the senator from the 13th should drive carefully going home this weekend?
I think he drives careful all the time, Senator. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 41, the nays are 6. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. All right, we're going to stand at recess. Pro Tem has dinner for all the members in the anteroom, and we're going to break for a quick dinner, be about, let's say, 35, 45 minutes, and then we're going to try to power through the rest of these bills here. So, all right, stand at ease.